Have you ever wondered how we perceive the world around us? It all comes down to light, but how does light help us see? Let's dive into the basics of light, an intriguing form of electromagnetic radiation. Picture it as a sea of energy flowing all around us, invisible to the naked eye until it interacts with matter. This energy is composed of minute particles known as photons. These tiny energy bundles travel through space in waves, much like ripples spreading across the surface of a pond when a stone is thrown into it. Now, these waves carry different amounts of energy, and the energy level of a photon determines the color of light we perceive. From the soothing blues and greens to the vibrant reds and yellows, every hue we see is essentially a different energy level of these photons. But how do we actually see these colors? Well, that's where our eyes come into play. Our eyes are intricate detectors, specifically designed to perceive these waves of photons. When light strikes an object, it bounces off, and some of these bouncing photons enter our eyes. Inside our eyes, these photons stimulate cells on a layer at the back of the eye called the retina. These specialized cells, known as rods and cones, convert the energy from photons into electrical signals. These signals are then sent to our brain through the optic nerve, and voila! Our brain interprets these signals and constructs the colorful world we see around us. So the next time you marvel at a beautiful sunset, the vibrant colors of a painting, or the twinkling stars in the night sky, remember this: it's all about light and the incredible way your eyes and brain decode it. As we unravel the mystery of light, we come to appreciate not just the beauty of our world, but also the intricate science that allows us to perceive it. So, the next time you marvel at a beautiful sunset, remember, it's all about light and how your eyes decode it. But how exactly does our eye decode light, enabling us to see the world around us? Well, the process of vision is a fascinating combination of physics and biology. It all starts when light, bouncing off objects all around us, enters our eye. This journey of light begins with the cornea, the eye's clear, dome-shaped surface. Acting like a window, the cornea allows light to enter the eye, and it also does some initial focusing. Following the cornea, the light then passes through the pupil, the black circular opening in the center of the eye. The size of the pupil is controlled by the iris, the colored part of your eye, which adjusts to control the amount of light passing through. Next in line is the lens. This clear structure further focuses the light, fine-tuning the image by changing shape, a process known as accommodation. It's much like adjusting the focus on a camera. Once past the lens, the light continues on to the retina, a thin layer of tissue lining the back of the eye. The retina is covered in millions of light-sensitive cells called photoreceptors. There are two types of these cells, rods and cones. Rods work in low light conditions, while cones work in bright light and are responsible for color perception. These photoreceptors convert the light into electrical signals, a process called phototransduction. These signals are then sent through the optic nerve, a kind of biological cable, to the brain. Now here's where the real magic happens. The brain, specifically the part called the visual cortex, receives these signals and interprets them. It's like a supercomputer, processing all of this information in real time, creating the images that we perceive as our visual world. So, in a nutshell, our eyes work like the most sophisticated camera, capturing light and converting it into electrical signals. Our brain then decodes these signals, creating the rich, vibrant world we see around us. In essence, our brain translates the language of light into the vivid images we see. What about colors? How does light give us the myriad of colors we see around us? This is quite a spectacle, isn't it? The world painted in a kaleidoscope of colors, all thanks to light. But how does this happen? Well, let's dive into the captivating realm of the color spectrum. Picture light as a delightful ensemble of musicians, each playing a different note. In this orchestra, each note represents a different color, and when all these colors or notes come together, they create what we know as white light. Yes, you heard right. White light is not a single entity, but a symphony of various colors. Now, these colors are simply light waves of different lengths. Let's think of them as different musical notes again. The shorter the wavelength, the higher the note, and vice versa. Blue light waves are short and play a high note, while red light waves are long and play a lower note. And there's a whole range of notes, or colors in between, forming what we call the visible light spectrum. But how do we see these colors? Well, when light hits an object, it's like a grand performance. The object absorbs some wavelengths or notes, while it reflects others. And the color we see, that's the color of the light that is reflected. For example, consider a ripe, juicy apple. It absorbs all colors but reflects the color red, and that's why we see the apple as red. The same goes for all the other objects around us. Each object is like a unique audience member, deciding which notes to absorb and which ones to reflect. So the colors we see are not just colors, they are the result of an intricate dance of light waves, a symphony of wavelengths interacting with the objects around us. And each color we see is a note played in this grand orchestra of light. So, the colors we see are simply a dance of light waves and their interactions with objects. This dance, my friends, is the magical spectacle that paints our world in vibrant hues. While our vision is impressive, it has its limitations. Did you know that there's a lot more to light than what meets the eye? Indeed, our eyes are impeccable tools, allowing us to perceive the world around us, but they have their constraints. They can only detect a small fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, known as the visible light spectrum. This spectrum is merely a tiny sliver of the grand cosmic light show happening all around us. The electromagnetic spectrum, you see, is a vast continuum of energy waves, ranging from radio waves with their long wavelengths and low frequencies, to gamma rays with their short wavelengths and high frequencies. Our eyes are tuned to perceive only a narrow band of this spectrum, roughly between violet and red. This is the range where the sun emits most of its energy, which is probably why our eyes evolved the way they did. But there's so much more to the electromagnetic spectrum than just the visible light. There's the ultraviolet light, which is just beyond the violet end of our visible spectrum. Ultraviolet light is what gives us a tan or a sunburn, and it's also what makes white clothes glow under a black light. On the other end of the spectrum, beyond the red, we have infrared light. This is the light that we feel as heat. It's invisible to our eyes, but it can be detected by special cameras and sensors. It's the light that night vision goggles use to allow us to see in the dark. Then there are the X-rays that doctors use to look inside our bodies, the microwaves that heat our food, and the radio waves that carry our favorite tunes to our radios. All of these are forms of electromagnetic radiation that our eyes can't see. So, just imagine how different the world would look if we could see all these other forms of light. It's a humbling thought to realize that our perception of the world is so limited. So, while our eyes are amazing tools, they only give us a glimpse of the grand spectrum of light. So light is not just about seeing. It's a fascinating world of waves, particles, and electrical signals that create our visual reality. Indeed, the journey we've embarked upon today has brought us through the labyrinthine world of light, its role in vision, and the many ways it shapes our perception of reality. But as we've learned, light's magic extends beyond the realm of the visible. We've unraveled how light, traveling at a mind-boggling speed of about 186,000 miles per second, interacts with objects, bouncing off them into our eyes. Inside the eye, it strikes the retina, a layer of cells that converts this light into electrical signals. These signals then zip along the optic nerve to the brain, translating into the vibrant world we see around us. We've explored the enchanting spectrum of colors, from the cool blues to the fiery reds and everything in between. The array of colors we perceive is simply a result of the varying wavelengths of light, each color corresponding to a specific range. Then we dove into the limitations of human vision. We learned that our eyes can only perceive a fraction of the entire electromagnetic spectrum, and that many creatures, from bees to certain snakes, can see light frequencies that are invisible to us, ultraviolet and infrared. The magic of light is not just in its role in vision, but also in its duality as both wave and particle, in its ability to carry information across vast cosmic distances, and in the myriad ways it interacts with matter. So next time you open your eyes, remember the incredible journey of light that makes your world come alive. Light is indeed more than meets the eye.